West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, a spiritual community whose hope is audacious and whose vision is for a more equitable and just world for all. I'm Reverend Anthony Makar, senior minister of this community, and joining me this morning are Dave Blazer, music director, Judy Marison, worship associate, Diane Alcorn, membership and engagement coordinator, Christine Solante and Danny Danchak, who are our tech folks enabling people beyond our walls to join us in worship this morning. So welcome everyone to this community of worship. There are so many joys in this world, and there's also so much suffering, so many conflicts, not enough compassion. May our worship hour be one where our joys are magnified, one where our sorrows are comforted. May each of us receive the hope and the healing that we may be needing this morning. A special welcome to you if you are a newcomer to our community, gay or straight, cisgender or transgender, whatever your race or ethnicity, whether you are here in the sanctuary or participating at home, you are welcome. We at West Shore are celebrating our 75th year, as we all know, and I want to tell you about one special dimension of this. It's the art show installed in our fireside room. It's been created by our aesthetics committee. The art show features the past accomplishments of this church and its congregants. Additionally, installed in the rotunda, there is a showcase displaying artifacts from the decade of the month. And of course, this month it's the 1940s. Enjoy both of these at your leisure. Our aesthetics committee just is a wonderful group. They do a great job. Look at the showcase next month. It changes every month. Next month, we will be featuring the 1950s. Check that out. I have two additional announcements, both highlighting opportunities to serve. These opportunities coming up over the next couple weeks. One happens next Saturday, October 2nd. You are invited to join our Social Action Committee at Cleveland's March for Reproductive Rights. In the midst of the Texas court ruling against reproductive rights and the attack on Roe versus Wade by the conservative right and state legislatures across our country, something must be done, and this something, at the very least, is to say no, to rally against what is happening. Lots of things to do, but this is one of them. Read your weekly e-news for more information about this. A second opportunity to serve the larger world is coming up in mid-October. Showing Up for Racial Justice, or SURGE, is organizing canvases in Old Brooklyn for the purpose of urging citizens to vote on November 2nd in favor of community oversight of Cleveland's police force. It is a common sense approach that ensures independent oversight of investigations into police misconduct and gives final authority on discipline decisions to a board of community leaders. This means that community leaders from every part of our city will have a direct hand in improving accountability within our police department to ultimately build a safer Cleveland. I have seen the data, the research, the investigations. This is needed. West Shore is being asked to canvass door to door in Old Brooklyn on 2 different Sundays in October. I'm going to be there, and I would like to see 50 of you folks joining me there on both Sundays. Let's do this. This is important. Check your weekly e-news for the details. Once again, welcome to this new day.
Good morning. Oh, great. Every week we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It is a beautiful reminder that no matter how many jarring events might happen over the course of the week, we can gather together as a community, as West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. It is as a source of stability and meaning that we can depend upon. I will now light the chalice with these words. May this flame remind us that there is infinite knowledge, love, and joy in the world waiting for us any time we step away from our fear and into the unknown. So now let us witness to the unity of our spirit by saying together our unison affirmation words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio su ley. Este es nuestro magnífico convenio. Vivir junto en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los otros a los otros.
We come to this good morning, remembering the journey of freedom. The land we are on was once another's. We mourn the legacies of oppression. Healing is our way forward. Joy is the birthright of all.
Every Sunday we greet each other, and we do this not just because it feels great, but also it is a visible reminder, a symbol that what we are doing together, which is something that we cannot do separately and apart, is building beloved community. We are doing things together that can't be done when we are alone and isolated. Now, this Sunday, the greeting is special because we are welcoming into our midst new members. This is a new member Sunday here at West Shore, and I want to turn things over to Diane Alcorn, our membership and engagement coordinator, who is also awesome. So give her a round of applause because she is awesome.
Thank you. So welcome everyone to this very special Sunday, and I'm so happy to be here today to celebrate our newest members. This is our first in-person induction of new members since the start of the pandemic. So today we are recognizing all those that have joined West Shore from March of 2020. I would like to mention that some of these new members have joined even before stepping foot into this building and into our community of worship. So I think that speaks loudly to who we are as a church, and I thank you all for that. So as we welcome our new members, I know that all of us here and everyone sharing time with us from home and watching have a special hope that all of you will be inspired to seek avenues for service and involvement, and as you do, find fulfillment and lifelong friends. So we are pleased to have you join our family here at West Shore. So as I call your name, if you could come up, and some people are here and some people we hope are watching from home. Our first is, and their slides should be coming up here behind me as well. Scott Armour is our neighbor here in Rocky River. He says that he chose West Shore because he discovered the heart of West Shore was the same as his own. Hannah Kandow lives in Lakewood with her partner and was looking for a church that was open and accepting of all. Dominic Coleman, who's here with us today, is from Youngstown, and he now lives in Cleveland. He is a professional software trainer and technology coach. He is a practicing Buddhist and enjoys meditation and yoga. Carolyn Cole is a fifth-generation Clevelander who resides in Euclid. She chose West Shore because she loved its energy and many ways to get involved. There we go. Kelly Green lives in Lakewood. She's a social work student at CSU. She's very excited to be part of West Shore and hopes to become active in social justice work. Joe Michelle and James Harper Kowalczyk. They moved to Ohio in March of this year from Washington State and now reside in Olmsted Falls. Both Joe and Michelle work in higher education as student affairs professionals, and they look forward to building community here at West Shore. Renee Crone, who's with us, is from North Ridgeville and is already involved in many activities here, including connection circles, the meditation group, the craft ministry, and she volunteers at the food bank. Amanda, Hal, and Elliot Martin are here with us as well. They're from Rocky River. They live in Rocky River, I should say. Amanda is actually from Minnesota, and Hal is from Nashville. They are really happy to be part of the West Shore community, where they feel lucky to have found a community where they can all grow with an open mind and heart. And some of you may recognize Elliot. He's kind of become our Facebook, our little famous from some of his videos that we've shared on Facebook from activities. Morgan O'Leary, she lives in Lakewood with her husband, Sam. She chose West Shore because she needed a spiritual home that was as open-minded and focused on social justice as herself, and one that would support her pagan practices. Morgan and Sam are actually expecting their first child in the next week or so we are sending them all our love and our good wishes. Kay Polster, who is with us here today as well, is our very newest member. After she grew up in Cleveland, she spent nearly 30 years in California before moving back here in 2008. She's recently retired, and she feels that West Shore is a good place to support her exploration of the world beyond our immediate concrete perception. Jonathan Pratt lives in Avon Lake. He is finishing his master's degree in school counseling. And Teddy Risk was already a member of West Shore years ago when she lived in Bay Village. She left our community when she moved to the east side, but has been residing in Lakewood and became drawn back because of our values, our people, and activities. Bev Schmitkin is also a past member of West Shore, and Bev is already active in Connection Circles, the 75th Jubilee Committee, and the Organ Restoration Project. Thank you, Bev. Judith Sellers, who is with us here today as well, has been a UU in many states over the past 60 years. She is a family nurse practitioner at the Lorain County Free Clinic. And a really fun fact about Judith is that she and her late husband started a UU church in Wilmington, North Carolina in the 60s. And that congregation has grown to 200 members. Judith is also a member of our choir. Eric, Roxanne, and Lucian Steiger live in Seven Hills. They were looking for a multifaceted approach to spirituality and one that would embrace their different faith practices. Carol Sweet, who is also with us, lives in Bay Village. She is a born and bred Clevelander and chose West Shore because our mission really hit home to her. Carol is already involved too. She's in Connection Circles. She participates in the Denison Equity Lab and is on the 75th Jubilee Committee. And lastly, David and Kate Westerfield, they live in Rocky River with their sons, Jack and Grant, and they feel that they have finally found their spiritual home here at West Shore due to our inclusion and liberal values. So now I invite all of you here to stand if you can and are willing, and join me in the congregational reading to install our new members, and you'll find that in your order of service. We welcome you into membership. Thank you for joining West Shore. Through your questions and your faith, we grow wiser. Through your energy and your gifts, our possibilities multiply. Together, our vision is widened and strength is renewed. So, to all of you here standing up front, wherever your path may take you, may you carry the good news that you have heard here today with you in your hearts and on your lips as a blessing to everyone that you meet. Thank you all and welcome to West Shore. Yeah, we can go down.
Thank you all. Welcome to West Shore. We are now going to sing our first hymn of the day release. Dave and I will sing it. And we need to go
We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where the oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land where people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Oh, and I miss your voices on these hymns. Dave and I are doing a thing up here. We want to keep these hymns singing alive in some form or fashion. But please, as you feel moved to do so, hum along with us as you can.
I was waiting for the extra verses. There is something I do not know, the knowing of which can change everything. There is something I do not know, the knowing of which could change everything. This quote by Werner Erhard has long been a favorite of mine. It has come to mean to me that just when I think I understand something or someone, snap, I see that something or someone in an entirely new light, and it changes my view of them. As I've been reflecting on the various forms of volunteering I have participated in my life so far, this quote seems to have followed me right along. What I mean is that when I entered each new volunteer experience with one set of expectations, I came out of that experience with small to very large changes in my understanding or viewpoint. This change process happened again when I began volunteering with Hospice of the Western Reserve. I became interested in helping out the elderly, of which I are now one of those. This was when my mom was in a nursing home in the late 1990s. When I visited Mom, I became aware of patients in other rooms that were alone or lay in a bed in a semi-coma. I just never forgot those people, and I'm sure many of you experience that kind of exposure as well. After Mom passed, I began seeing the same scenarios when Dad went into a nursing home. In the following years, I never forgot those people, and I decided to sign up to be a hospice volunteer. After my training class, my first assignment was to visit with a patient in her home and sit with her while her daughter went out for a nice change and go shopping. I was afraid I was going to be meeting a very sick, bedridden lady, and I would have no idea what to talk to her about. I was shocked to find a lovely woman puttering around in her bedroom and wanting help to organize things better. We ended up chatting and laughed about books and family and cats, and the time flew by. That's when I learned firsthand that hospice cares not only for those who are dying, but also for those who have serious chronic illnesses that they may never recover from. So over the next year, I continued to visit patients in their homes, in nursing homes, or at the Ames Hospice House in Westlake. With nearly every encounter, I was deeply moved by the spirit, the wonderfully warm spirit of all the people I met. Eventually, though, I began to feel the call to another area of hospice volunteering, and that is to sit with patients while they were actively dying. And this would normally be done with patients who have no family, or family that's too far away and just can't get there, or families are there but they just need some time to go out and get dinner or just take a break. I was quite afraid when I sat with a dying patient for the first time. I usually brought some music or would read a poem or say some prayers. I soon began to feel what a privilege it was to share someone's final hours, and the heartfelt satisfaction from family members who thanked me for being there. The most memorable moment of all for me, though, was sitting with 102-year-old Miss Lucille, not her real name, but good one. She had no family, but her family became the nursing staff who obviously loved and cared for her, because every few minutes they would come into the room to check on her and give her a kiss. I had been there about an hour when Miss Lucille took her last breath. There is something I do not know, the knowing of which can change everything.
This is Judy's first time to share a reflection. You got to show her some love. This is great. Good job. Good job. Good job. Every fourth Sunday of the month, it is our privilege to support the work of a local nonprofit or some other initiative that reflects wonderfully our UU values. This month, it is the Justice and Outreach Program Council which has selected the recipient, which is the Renee Jones Empowerment Center. Take a look.
Hello, my name is Renee Jones, and I am the president and CEO of the Renee Jones Empowerment Center. And I am so glad to talk with you today to let you know the mission of the center. The center was started, we've been open almost 2 decades, and it started. Hello, my name is Renee Jones, and I am the president and CEO of the Renee Jones Empowerment Center. And I am so glad to talk with you today to let you know the mission of the center. The center was started, we've been open almost 2 decades, and it started with a passion to help those who were struggling in the area of commercial sex industry, to provide an outlet for them. So we started Project Red Court as a street outreach program. And over the years, it has developed into what it is today, where 98% of our work is working with human trafficking victims and victims of sexual assault, helping them get their lives back on track. Your support helps us to continue the programs that we're able to offer these victims and survivors. And we appreciate you, and we thank you for everything that you've done.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes,
I survived because the fire inside of me burned hotter than the fire outside me. Something like that. You see that quote? This is a great organization. You know, we talk about our first principle as Unitarian Universalists, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and this is absolutely relevant to the issue of human trafficking and the healing of that. I urge you, I encourage you to give generously to the Renee Jones Empowerment Center, a great service that they offer here in Cleveland. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. To serve can mean so many things. Kindness to someone that you know, kindness to someone you don't know, to be of use, to help, to make a contribution, to make a difference. To serve can mean so many things. And because this is so, it gets to the point that a generic word like service only goes so far. For example, one kind of service could be called charity. And that's where the act of kindness is some specific direct action meant to relieve the suffering of a specific person. Then there is a second kind of service where the act of kindness is directed more at changing the oppressive social policies and structures that cause people suffering to begin with. This form of service is called social justice. Both are forms of service, but both need their own names because they are quite different in spirit. Be that as it may, for this sermon today, we are talking about service of every form and kind. We are talking about how all are called to serve, all and everyone. And part of the reason why is that it is a main way to learn and to grow. As Judy said so well earlier, service opportunities put you in places that may be new for you, and you discover things about yourself. You witness unknown talents emerging. You meet people who bring you blessings into your life. You get as much as you give. All are called to service because all are called to growth. And then there is this reason. All are called to service because each of us has a stake in everything and everyone else's well-being. When I hurt others, I want to do something with that guilt. I want to make amends through service. And you know, I might not be able to make amends to the specific person I might have served. So let me make amends as best as I can to some other. And then when another's kindness heals me, I feel gratitude and I want to do something with that gratitude. That gratitude is a call inside of me to pass that kindness onto some other. Everyone has hurt others. Everyone has been the recipient of kindness. Therefore, all are called to serve. But now we must go deeper into the thought of this. And to do this, I want to use an old teaching story. It is not factually true, but it is psychologically true. It is spiritually true. And it's going to help us as we reflect more deeply on this topic. So here's the story. It is about a monastery down on its luck, shrinking in terms of numbers, shrinking in terms of spirit. It is led by one frustrated, burned out abbot. And at times the abbot will bring to mind his fellow monks. He'll bring them to his mind's eye, one after another, to count their flaws and their failures. He blames them for everything. So this is the burden on his heart and his mind when one day he goes, or he leaves the monastery to go over to the nearby Jewish temple to visit with his good friend, the rabbi. The abbot just could not carry the weight of these thoughts and feelings anymore by himself. He poured out his heart to his good friend, the rabbi, and then he started crying, at which point the rabbi handed him a Kleenex, comforted him with a hand on his shoulder. And then he found himself moved to say this, the rabbi did, found himself moved to say, "There is something I have been meaning to tell you. In the community I lead, we have long known this. We have long known this something about your monastery, and now it's time that you knew. It's this, that the Messiah is one of you." That's what the rabbi said. And at first the abbot thought it was a joke. Some time to make a joke, right? But there was no smirk on the rabbi's face. There was no mischievousness in his eyes. And seeing this, the abbot wiped away his tears and started to laugh. The Messiah is one of us? And then he said, "Listen, I know a thing or two about Jewish theology. The Messiah is supposed to be a hero who restores peace and justice to the world. And let me tell you, I know my fellow monks, and none of them are hero material." But despite all of these objections, the rabbi held firm. The Messiah is one of you. I don't care how unlikely it seems, believe it. That's what the rabbi said. Now, the abbot had never experienced the rabbi as one given to exaggeration or irrational. He came away from the temple feeling amazement. A burden had been lifted. Maybe the Messiah really is one of us, he thought. And so entering into the monastery, the familiar sights and sounds that he had known for years and years, they were somehow charged with new possibility. He'd be walking down the halls, walking through the courtyard. He would pass a monk by. He'd pass by a monk. And the abbot would wonder, could this be the one? Could this be the Messiah who would restore justice and peace to our world? Every different monk he saw brought this same question to his mind. Is he the one? And soon enough, the blame fell away. The blame he felt towards everyone fell away. What was left instead was anticipation, was openness, was respect. And it did not go unnoticed. Eventually, one of the brothers came to him and said, "Sir, you are acting a little different these days." It took a bit of coaxing, but his fellow monk persuaded him to share his experience with the rabbi, which he did, and the revelation was stunning. His brother monk caught that vision of the Messiah is one of us vision. And soon enough, this vision spread like wildfire throughout the monastery until every monk was wondering about every other monk. Could he be the one? Is he the one? This good news simply could not be contained. The Messiah is one of us. This could not be contained. Soon enough, the entire community glowed with kindness and grace. The prayer life grew profound and deep. The worship services vibrated with an energy that had never been known before. And like a magnet, it drew the villagers from the surrounding town to that monastery. They felt the amazing spirit of this place. They wanted to be a part of that. In fact, requests to actually join the monastery rose to a number the abbot had never heard before, never known before. He rejoiced. Things had come full circle from despair towards a community that felt like it was dying to amazed joy at how it had turned right around and discovered abundant new life, all because it believed and lived a profound vision that the Messiah is one of us. And that is the old teaching story. It is not factually true about any specific actual monastery, but it is psychologically true. It is spiritually true for everyone and for us. So let's dive in and perhaps catch a few wisdom pearls. Start with the story's beginning. The monastery down on its luck. The abbot frustrated. The abbot blaming it all on the failures of all his fellow monks. You better believe that when a relationship or a community is in a place like this and all do not feel called to serve, there is a feeling of scarcity. And that relationship or that community is on a path towards death. A mutual willingness to serve is life, but a spirit of resentment and blame is death. Do y'all know that phrase about freezing a person in time? You heard that phrase before? Freezing a person in time? How many of you have heard that phrase before? What that means is your sense of that person always goes back to some mistake they made. And they are actually never anything else but that mistake, right? That is what it means to freeze a person in time. And same thing goes with situations or with communities. A community might have been the scene of some kind of blow-up, or it tries to improve, but it just, for some reason, can never get there. And when you think of it, your mind always goes back to that blow-up, or it always goes back to just that community never really being able to get there. And so that community never can be anything other than that. That is what it looks like to freeze a person or a community in time. It may therefore be the first act of service to forgive, to let your mind and your heart be immersed in the vision that we are all in the same cosmic classroom, and we all exist as an interdependent web of people who will inevitably hurt other people as a part of our learning journey. And those people are going to hurt us in turn. We are all just trying to learn. It is not personal. Those monks are not intentionally trying to mess things up for the monastery. They are not. There's a lot of books out there that just tell you the meaning of life. They just tell you how to do it right. I don't know, but I have to learn through trial and error. Don't you? You are going to hurt people through your efforts to learn, and they will hurt you, and this is the cosmic classroom we are in. Forgiveness may very well be the first act of service. To forgive the parents who might have hurt us, the siblings who might have hurt us, the friends who might have hurt us, the colleagues who might have hurt us, and yes, the church. Forgiveness, which is about unfreezing, releasing, letting another person or another community have back their freedom to learn from their mistakes and do things differently in the future. And I just got to tell you, these words are so easy to say, they are so hard to follow. I am a hypocrite, and I'm just going to do the best I can to try to live up to those words, and I invite you to do that too. It's just hard. It's hard. And one reason why is because we get stuck in our heads. The stories that we tell ourselves are too narrow. They are too limited. They are set on repeat like a broken record. Somehow, a larger vision needs to break through, which in our teaching story is where the rabbi comes in when he says, the Messiah is one of you. He puts a very different spin on something that the abbot already knew. The abbot already knew that his fellow monks were children of God. That's a more Christian way of saying that all people are more than the sum of their mistakes, more than the sum of their social identities, that there is something that remains pure and free in each person, no matter how bogged down they may seem to us, viewing them as we do from the outside. Surely the abbot had heard sermons about that 1,000,000 times already, or he had given them 1,000,000 times already. It just points to the realistic fact that sometimes we need to hear about a truth we already know differently to really receive it. In my ice skating life, sometimes I get stuck in a bad habit, and my head coach tells me 20 different times how to do it differently, and it goes nowhere. But then I work with an assistant coach once, and the way he says it penetrates, it clicks, it fits. You know what I'm talking about? Thank you. You guys can do that too. Sometimes when people are stuck, what is needed is a different spin, a different metaphor, a different voice. That is how the rabbi served the abbot when he invoked that metaphor of the Messiah rather than using that old child of God metaphor that the abbot was no doubt already well aware of. It means that another way of serving when people are stuck in a rut is to change things up. Don't just repeat what you have already said 10 times more, or even worse, decide that that person who remains stuck is stupid. Say it differently. Shake up how they are imagining it. Besides forgiveness, helping people reimagine what they are doing or what they are facing is a powerful way of serving. But now we take a closer look at the impact of what the abbot heard from that rabbi and what eventually spread throughout that monastery, that good news of The Messiah is one of us. I want you to notice, first of all, what this good news does not mean. What it does not mean. It does not mean that the Messiah, that bringer of justice and peace, is someone else. The two phrases sound somewhat alike, but they are worlds apart in terms of practical consequences. Affirm that the Messiah is someone else, and what you have is an impenetrable obstacle to seeing and receiving the abundance that is yours and is ours here and now. I mean, if the Messiah is truly somebody else, then nothing is going to get better until we get something that we don't already have. More members, more friends, different spouses, different children, different lives, something other than what we already have right now. The green grass that is always on the other side of the fence. This is being in scarcity mode. Immediately, we are right there in scarcity mode, trying to solve our problems with resources that are not already in hand. The Messiah is somebody else, is a small vision that leads to small lives. It is the kind of vision that will make us weep. I suspect that it is exactly the kind of mindset that the abbot and his monks were struggling with initially. And maybe this mindset as well, this other mindset, the vision that only one of us gets to be the Messiah. Only one of us, or a few of us, get to be the Messiah. That vision, the vision that only one person gets to step up, only one of us gets to be brilliant, only one of us can deepen our lives through service. Now, it is true, in a big church like ours, where some jobs do require special expertise, or when the oversight of programs, he's also a good cocktail maker too, let me just say. But it's true, when service requires special expertise, or when the oversight of programs requires the sort of focus and time that are just not possible for most volunteers. We need structures, we need policies, we need staff, we need ministers, or at least a minister. But I want to tell you, it is a distorted and false vision to allow staff and ministerial leadership to control everything. You heard that from this minister. This is way beyond the fundamental structures and policies and paid leadership that we do need to keep this big ship afloat and going. But with a distorted vision, like only one person gets to be the Messiah, well, you better believe in the end everybody is weeping. Because for one thing, the people who are not allowed to step up into service never get their chance to develop their Messiah-like potentials and step up into Messiah-like action. They must learn to be content just to follow, just to sit and soak. And when things go wrong, their only option must be to complain and wait for the problem to be solved for them. Passivity and reactivity. So no wonder the monks in that monastery were all shallow and lifeless. No wonder the villagers wouldn't touch that monastery with a 10-foot pole. Who'd want to be a part of that? And as for that person who is pegged as the official, one and only one Messiah, they are weeping too, because they are expected to do it all and be all for everybody else. They have to have all the wisdom. They have to have all the answers to solve all the problems. They have to have all the energy to be the change agent and must bear the full burden of that. They are, in short, it. And they get burned out to a crisp. Above all, what they don't have is the right to be human, the right to make mistakes, the right to sometimes take that Superman cape off. They don't have that right. Have you ever felt stuck in the Messiah role? Have you ever felt that way? That you've been pegged as the answer person, the one who must always be strong in the relationship, the one who must give and give and give without receiving, the perfect one. Can you relate?
Yes.
Thank you. How could someone not be weeping if this is all the life they have? It is said that without an expansive vision, the people perish, and I believe it. Ultimately, to peg one person as the official, one and only one, Messiah, or to say that the Messiah is always somebody else but never us, that is to hand ourselves over to a vision of scarcity in our lives, and we will shrink to fit. We will. We will become scarcity. We will scatter into separate groups that compete and quarrel. We will turn selfish. We will be quick to anger and criticize. We will be quick to despair and to blame. We could be surrounded by every good thing in life, but we won't be able to see it and receive it. We would starve in a full pantry because we simply couldn't imagine anything higher than the floor, because guess what we're looking at, and only that. The floor. So much depends upon the kind of vision we give ourselves to, and the expansive vision that all are called, that hopeful vision that the Messiah is one of us, that is worthy of our loyalty. Its brilliance. Its brilliance is the fact that the identity of the Messiah is forever deferred. That we never know exactly who it's going to be next. Maybe me, maybe you. Therefore, the door is opened to everyone being able to live out those Messiah-like potentials within themselves. For the abbot in the story, it represents a good news imagination that allows him to see things through the lens of a more positive kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. As the story goes, the abbot would pass by a monk and wonder if he was the one, the Messiah, who would restore justice and peace to the world. Every different monk he saw brought up this same question to his mind. Is he the one? Is he the one? Inspired imagination like this is a matter of wondering, of weaving and connecting the pieces of our lives in a way that reveals new meaning and purpose. It is so different from a burnout imagination, which instinctively presumes meaninglessness in people and situations. A burnout imagination will see people who are stacking brick upon brick as only doing that from here to kingdom come, stacking brick upon brick, while an inspired imagination will look upon the exact same scene of people putting brick upon brick, and what they will see, which is what is really happening, is people building a cathedral. The Messiah is one of us. Sometimes maybe you, sometimes maybe me, but always the maybe. That we are only human is so true, and each of us brings limitations to our relationships and jobs and our volunteer roles. But what if we refused to allow our vision of ourselves and each other to be defined by our limitations? What if we were to presume the best instead and to wonder, is Victoria the Messiah? Is Elizabeth the Messiah? Is Dave the Messiah? Is Judy the Messiah? Could I sometimes be the Messiah? What happens then? If someone thinks that I may be the Messiah and possess potentials to bring beauty and justice to this world in some unique way, if they treat me like that, as if that were true, with all the reverence and respect that requires, then I will step up to that. I will be that. Recognize me like this. Recognize others like this, they will respond. Recognize the teenagers among us like this, and they will respond. Recognize the children among us like this. People of every age, every person comes through our door, whatever they look like, whatever their gifts or flaws, and they will respond. The vision will happen. The Messiah will come. Let this story speak to us today here at West Shore. Let it mean that each and every one of us finds a way to love this place, finds a way to give into it with their presence, their time, their money, their talent. It means that no one person is so valuable that without him or her we are lost. It means that all the resources we need are already here within reach, in our pockets, in our hands. It means that we are the leaders we have been waiting for. I want to close with what I take to be an example of a time when church works best. Church works best, I believe, when there is a project at hand that everyone gets to play a role in, when everyone gets to be the Messiah at some point and in some way. This story, a true story this time, comes from the early 1950s, when our West Shore forebears were busy helping to finish the first version of the building that we are in right now. For the first 6 years of our existence, as you know, we used rental space and faced all sorts of trials, and so our ancestors were understandably anxious to have a space and a place of their own. And of course, professionals were brought in to do the heavy construction and all the things that required special expertise. But our ancestors believed not only in the necessity of financial generosity to raise the money that was needed to do what needed to be done, but they also believed in sweat equity where possible, to save money. And that's what they did, everybody of all ages, finding a way to chip in. Listen to past archivist Roy Walther speaking from the summer of 1951, when his family could have been on vacation, but were not. Here's what he says, I quote, "That was a summer. Our 10-week vacation was spent painting and tiling. The work was done mostly at night and on Saturdays. The ladies made sandwiches and hot coffee, strong coffee. Church work came before repair work at our house, as it did at many others. A large hole in our kitchen ceiling revealed a bathroom upstairs, lending privacy to neither, as it was not repaired until the church work was done," unquote. He goes on to say this, "It was a beautiful, busy summer. Every evening and every weekend, amateur painters brushed and rolled not one, not two, but 3 or more coats of paint on the walls, while work at home remained undone. For amateur painters, we did a pretty good job. I wasn't fast, but I did good work. If I ever have grandchildren," says Roy Walther all those years ago, "if I ever have grandchildren and they want to know what I did, I will take them to the ladies' washroom, open the door, and say, 'See these beautiful walls? I painted them.'" That's Roy Walther. That is the one who has felt the power of the Messiah coming through his paintbrush. That is a voice of abundance. When people feel like that, anything good is possible. So I want to ask you, can you think of other times in the life of this congregation where people felt engaged like this, and it was all hands on deck? Everyone engaged in some way in a project that was not only valuable to the larger community, but the people doing it experienced the value for themselves. They experienced the value of it for themselves, could see it and understand this value. It doesn't have to be a social justice project per se, although it could. I want you to take this question with you. Dive deeply into it. Take it into your conversations with other congregants. Spend time with it. Your answers will serve us well as we look to our next 75 years as a faith community, and as we actively choose, as we consciously choose how we see this church and how we see each other as people engaged in building our beloved community. We are all a part of the same cosmic classroom, teaching and learning from each other. We can freeze each other in time, or this church, or we can release through forgiveness. We can stay stuck in imaginative ruts about what is going on, or we can experience renewal by seeing what is happening through the lens, through new lenses, new metaphors. It is our choice moving forward to know that the Messiah is one of us, to know that the Messiah is one of us, to know, listen, to know that all are called. Okay, amen. Let's sing our closing hymn. Break not the circle.
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow given and forgiving. Break not the circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. Come wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong or guilt, but will that human bonds remain unspoken. Come then, the movement of the love that breathes, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again.
Let me remind you of our reception for new members. It will take place in the courtyard outside. If you like, you may want to leave through those doors and come around. Other ways to get there too, but so everyone is invited for joining us for refreshments to welcome the newest members among us. An additional reminder, today's sermon chat will be via Zoom at 12:30. I will see you there. And now, today's benediction words, they are from the Reverend Eric Williams. He says, "The world is too beautiful to be praised by only one voice. May you have the courage to sing your part. The world is too broken to be healed by only one set of hands. May you have the courage to use your gifts." So may it be, right? Ashe and amen. Go in peace.
Thank you.